we had collected some very high grade gold samples, and including visible gold at surface on the Trapper target. And we drilled the first 3 holes that we put out recently. We cut 19 grams of gold over 11 meters. Was one of the highlight intervals.
Hello, welcome to Assay TV. Today I'm delighted to be joined by Gary Thompson, who is the chairman and CEO of Brixton Metals. Brixton Metals is a Canada-based exploration company focused on 4 projects, 2 in British Columbia, 1 in Ontario and 1 in Montana. The company is looking to explore up their projects and take them through to feasibility. Gary, great to see you here today. Like to start things straight off. You've had some results at your Thorn Project there in British Columbia, your Trapper target at the Thorn Project. What have you found so far?
Hey, Leo. Well, thanks for having me. Yeah, some pretty exciting gold numbers. I mean, we just acquired the Trapper project last year in 2020. So this is our first program drilling. We drilled 15 holes into the target, where we had collected some very high grade gold samples, and including visible gold at surface on the Trapper target. And we drilled the first 3 holes that we put out recently. We cut 19 grams of gold over 11 meters. Was one of the highlight intervals, but it also had a fairly broad zone of mineralization as well, 2 grams over 139 meters. So pretty respectable hole. Either way you chop and change it, we're pretty excited about it, and we're encouraged by what we're seeing in the rocks, visible gold, which was very exciting to see. So anticipation of another dozen holes to come from that target, and what it looks like is that we're onto a gold-rich porphyry system here, which is now, Trapper has morphed into about a 4-kilometer gold and soil and rocks geochem that we've now expanded the trend, which is part of a larger 11-kilometer trend from the Trapper up to the Camp Creek target, which is where we spent a bunch of time this year. So the project is amazing. We're developing our own porphyry belt, if you will. I guess it's in the making. It's a porphyry belt in the making.
I mean, as your announcement mentioned, this Trapper target is only one of 14 copper, gold, silver exploration targets you've identified along this belt. So you've still got 12 holes pending. When do you expect to get those back from the lab?
Well, the lab has been extraordinarily long in turning around samples in response to, as a result of the labor shortage, really due to COVID. And also the surge in exploration activity by miners. So we're seeing towards the end of the year we should have some more results out. Just can't say for sure, but I would expect to have several batches of results coming out between now and potentially in January sometime.
And I mean, as you mentioned, you've got some visible gold in some of the samples there, and you've been honing in on the source of the mineralization, I believe, at this project. Do you want to talk a little bit about the geology there?
Yeah, so what we've recognized, well, the previous operators was Ocean Park that spent a good chunk of dough. They drilled about 40 holes back in 2011 across a good chunk of the area. And it was actually originally worked by Chevron back in the 80s as well. So they had a lot of good soil sample data. So we just expanded on that. And then what we've been able to recognize from the work that we've done is we see a series of intrusives, diorite to tonalite phases. So more than one intrusive phase. It looks like a porphyritic, a diorite porphyry unit. Where we're seeing a lot of the gold mineralization is within these little veinlets. And we're seeing this high sulfidation mineralization, like energite perhaps. We're still waiting on some petrology work to come back to confirm some of these minerals, but we see some overprints. And then there's some epithermal-like texture that we see where we're seeing quartz veins and veinlets and gold mineralization within that as well. So we see some overprinting between epithermal and porphyry style mineralization. And we're right at the contact of these Tahini volcanics, which are these mafic volcanics, lapilli tooth, which are quite favorable units in the province for mineralization. So we're still trying to sort out, do we need to be in the contact, or really is it the porphyry that's driving, looks like what's driving it. Need to get more into that. So that hole was only 190 meters, and there's 187 meters of the 190 meters that was mineralized. So we think perhaps we should have just kept drilling deeper on that, but hindsight's great, isn't it?
Absolutely. But you've still got 12 holes to come. So I guess based on that, more drilling following up on that?
Well, absolutely. I mean, if you look back at our news, we did announce considerable visible gold counts in more than half of our holes. So yeah, I mean, the plan would be, we can't get back in there now till May. So we're pretty much done drilling for the season, and now we're waiting for winter to get behind us before we can start turning drills again. But we're planning a pretty aggressive program next year between the Trapper target, which is what we released the good gold numbers on, and obviously we want to get back to Camp Creek as well, because that's an exciting copper gold porphyry system on that target.
I mean, let's talk a little bit more about Camp Creek. As you mentioned, a copper porphyry target. What have you done so far there?
Well, 10 years later, it's been a lot of drilling, geophysics, geochem. It's been interesting because it's only been the last couple of years that we started drilling deep enough to actually test the porphyry. And what we're finding that it's actually a blind porphyry. So we look at it as an analog like phyllo mining, if you look at that, where you've got these high sulfidation veins and breccia zones at surface, which have generated some spectacular high-grade copper, gold, silver numbers, and more silver enriched actually in the Oban breccia we drilled back in, I think it was 2011. We came out with a 95 meters of 900 gram silver equivalent from surface. So we see this, silver enrichment and copper in these veins and the breccia zones. But it's only been, like I say, the last couple of years now, we're actually drilling deeper into the system. And what we recognize that it's a blind porphyry. And so it's not that easy to find. And what we've done some IP geophysics. And most recently, and the IP didn't work that well for us because there's a lot of pyrite in the system, and it seemed to have sucked all the juice for the charge, and we didn't get to see below where this big pyrite. We have this very large pyrite anomaly, and we weren't able to see below that into where we want to be seeing. So we flew this airborne mobile MT, which is a magnetotelluric electrical signal, and that's giving us some images. We see these conductors now that are down to 2 kilometers depth. So both at the Camp Creek target and at Trapper, we have these 2 quite large conductor units that are associated with the targets. So that's helping us maybe vector some deeper drilling there. But what we found there is the 2 deepest holes we drilled. One was hole 184, which we just released down to 1,200 meters, and then hole 183, which we drilled earlier this year, released those results. 183 was 550 meters of 0.5% copper equivalent, and 184 was 320 meters of like 0.7 copper equivalent, something along those lines. And the point is that both those holes had similar signature in that they were increasing copper mineralization, copper, gold, silver, moly, increasing grades down the hole, and both those holes ended in a porphyry style, respectable mineralization grade.
It's a patient business, isn't it, drilling porphyries?
Yeah, it's like, why didn't you drill that hole 5 years ago? It would have been great, wouldn't it? Yeah, it's a challenging business, especially when it doesn't when the mineralization doesn't stick out of the ground at surface. It's a little tougher to find these things. But that's the opportunity. We think we're sitting on a big prize there at Camp Creek, and I guess we're looking at this as a potential block cave.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about your other projects. The Hog Heaven, silver gold copper project in Montana. You've got a farm out agreement there with Ivanhoe Electric, HPX, formerly known as. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, that was an interesting project. It came to us, I guess we acquired that in 2017. And we see some similarities to Thorn in that we've got this silver-rich diatreme, sort of breccia zone related to a porphyry system. And there was some very high grade past production there. I think it was 29 ounce per ton silver with some of the past production numbers. So we saw it more as a silver gold project originally. And what's interesting is that the previous operators were really focused on the silver gold and rather ignored the base metals. But some of the work that we've done highlights significant copper potential as well. And I think that's what piqued the interest of the Ivanhoe Group on what could be another porphyry sort of slash diatreme system here. And obviously they're looking for something big. And so that's a pretty exciting opportunity. You know, they've done some good work so far. They've done their geophysics. They relogged all the old core, they relogged all the old core and cuttings, and have done a fair amount of reassay work, because most of I think we had the numbers where something like 68% of the sampling did not analyze for copper. So I went through and did a rework on that. And then obviously we're looking forward to them getting some drilling done on the project.
When do they hope to be able to start on that?
Looks like they'll be kicking into the spring now. Probably be able to get in there in somewhere between March and May, my guess. We were in there in April in 2020 and started working. So it does have a longer window than, say, northern BC.
Absolutely. And how does the farm out agreement work there? What's the ownership structure going to be?
Yeah, so the way the deal was structured is it's an earn-in for Ivanhoe Electric can earn up to 75% by funding basically a $40 million US earn-in over 11 years. And Brixton is to receive $4.5 million US over 5 years of cash payments. So they start off, we get these $500,000 US payments a year, and the last 2 years are $1 million payments. That gets them into the 51% mark. And then they can elect to go into towards 75% by funding the rest of those exploration expenditures.
Right, so be providing you with some cash to pay for your Thorn drilling, yeah?
Well, I don't think it would cover Thorn drilling, but it certainly helps out with our G&A. And if you look back in 2017, which was pretty close to the bottom of the market, we acquired that project for $1 million in stock, and we spent a couple $3 million on doing exploration work there. So I think it was a pretty good accretive value add transaction for Brixton, and we think. And I'm sure Ivanhoe Electric thinks the same, is that there's a prize there somewhere, and hopefully they can find it in the next few years, and we all can be rewarded for a nice new discovery there.
Absolutely, fingers crossed. Your other project, Langis Hud Bay, it's a silver cobalt project in Ontario. Just touch on that a little bit.
Sure, yeah. This is an interesting, actually 2 old past producing mines that operated in the cobalt camp of Canada. And even though it's mainly a silver camp, there's a significant amount of cobalt coming out of there. So I think Brixton has generated, back in 2018, when the cobalt price was $45 a pound, we had a bit of a focus at where's the cobalt in the system, because most of the silver mining pretty much ignored the cobalt. Because if you think of, back in the day when they were mining these silver veins, cobalt wasn't, it was more of a nuisance. It wasn't really worth that much to them. But we're having another look at it from a cobalt perspective as well. And there is some nickel. It's primarily a silver story. We've generated some off the chart silver's numbers in, silver and percent values. So we're going to have another look at it with the cobalt. Interesting thing is that, First Cobalt, which is now Electra, partnered up with Glencore, and they're building this refiner. It's going to be the only North American cobalt refiner, and it's right in the backyard there of Langis in the cobalt camp. So could be a unique opportunity to generate some feed for that that refiner there.
Absolutely. Well, it sounds like you've got a lot of activity going on there. For sort of investors looking at the company, what are the immediate sort of milestones they should be looking out for in the coming months?
Yeah, well, I think in the short term, just some additional strong drill results from Thorn. We're still internally working through, if we get back to the cobalt camp at Langis, so that'd be some interesting news, over the winter months. With a goal, obviously, we're trying to get to a resource on that target. And I think 2022 is going to be a big year for Brixton. We've got lots on the go. We plan a fairly aggressive program up in northern BC and on Thorn. and we expect good things to come out of Hog Heaven from Ivanhoe, guys. So stay tuned on that. You know, can have a look at brixtonmetals.com and check out our website and our materials on lots of good information online there.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for joining us today, and good luck with the results as they come out, and best of luck for 2022. Sounds like an interesting, exciting year for the company.
Very good. Thanks a lot, Leo. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Gary.